Hello everyone, it's Melissa with Sew Study and thank you for joining me today. We are going to be working on our Chains Miniature Quilt pattern. So this is the pattern that we got in our box, and this is going to be the block of the quarter that we're working on, the Chains quilt block. So we're going to be focusing on doing the mini quilt block today. And in your box, you should have gotten the paper pattern, which we're going to use to make the block. And then of course, this gorgeous fabric by In the Beginning fabric. So it looks like I've got two purple and one of the pink kind of floral there. So the one purple will be our backing and binding, and then we'll use the other purple and the pink to cut out the chains for the chains block. So we're going to want to go ahead and get those out so we can get those prepped. And then we're going to be using our rope and heart template that came in the box as well to do the quilting on it when we're all done. So anyways, let's get to it. I am excited to do this project with you today. I love these little mini quilt blocks. I think they're a lot of fun and they're good practice and a nice way to dive into a block if you've never done a particular block before. So the change is it's a fairly easy block. It's just doing some 4 patches and some squares and putting it together, and you get that nice chain effect, which can be really dynamic and dramatic depending on, again, the colors that you use and how big you make it and how you turn and rotate the block. It's always fun to play around with it that way. So anyways, let's get started. Get out your fabric, get out your instructions, your template. We'll be using that, and let's make this little mini quilt block. I think it'll be a lot of fun. Okay, so first things first, let's get our fabric pressed so that we get it all ready for cutting. I like to use Magic, this premium quilting and crafting spray. It works really good. I've tried different ones, and this one I just like because it doesn't distort the fabric. And sometimes I feel like there's ones that kind of distort the fabric a little bit, and this one doesn't, and it just gives it a nice, adds a little bit of stiffness to it, but not much, and then it just makes it nice for cutting. So this is what I use. I'm almost out of that bottle too. I have a new one sitting over here too, but I was trying to use all of the stuff that was left in it. So it just gives it a really nice finish. I really like it. Let it sit for a second. We're going to get these all nice and as flat as possible, and that'll make our cutting that much nicer. Get this stuff out of the way here. So that's one of ours. Be the backing and batting probably. I don't want to waste any and get the most I can out of that. I have to tilt it a certain way now to get the stuff to come out, but again, it works really good. I really like it. If you've never used it before, you might give it a try. All right, there's the purple. I really love this purple. I really like these fabrics that kind of have that like grunge look to them. They're really good for it's not really just a plain solid. I guess that's what I like about it. It has a little bit of depth to it, and you can see a little bit of different colors in it. In the Beginning does a really good job on their designs for their fabric. I really like them. Very colorful. And of course, we have this beautiful pink. It's got a little bit of peachy and orange and some purples to it. I think that's really pretty. So, oh, I got a little bit of overspray here. Get rid of that. There we go. So we've got everything prepped as far as getting our fabric all pressed. So I'm going to let the fabric just sit for a little bit before I start messing around with it so it's completely cooled, and then we'll start cutting. Okay, so I have my bigger one here. It's nice they come in multiple sizes. I don't know if you guys have used our adjustable cutting rollers. We talk about them a lot, but they work really good. So I have it adjusted at 1.5 inches down, and that way I can just use this to cut out my fabric. Scooch this over a little bit so I've got some room here to play around with. So just going to line that up, and again, I already gave my fabric a nice straight edge. I've got both pieces under there, and I'm just going to put that right on that black guide and cut out my 1.5 inch strip. Then we'll cut that down into 1.5 inch blocks. See how many strips I'll need. Not quite sure. Maybe 3? Let me think I'll get out of there. Let's see. Maybe 2. Let's see. Might. So if I keep those together too, trying to see how easy I could keep this. So we're going to put those together. Now I just need to put them in 1-inch blocks. So I've got my littler one, and I've got that set at 1.5 inches too. So what I can do, normally I wouldn't be moving him this much, but to keep it in front of the camera and not have my arms all in the way, I'm going to scooch this around here, and then I can just use this to line up and cut my other ones. So I'm going to stand over on this side, make sure this is all lined up nice and neat. And again, I'm at my 1.5 inches, and we'll cut out these. How many think I'm going to get? Let's see, I got 2, 4, 6, 8. I am. Just out of 2 strips, we'll get 10. And a couple extras just in case we make a mistake, which is always nice. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut out a couple extras. I'm already here cutting, or if you wanted to make more than 1 block, there we go. So I've got my 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. I got 12 total. So there's my 1.5 inch ones. And then next we need the number C, which is going to be the pink. And we're going to do 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and we need 4 of those. So let's get our pink out from underneath here. And I'll set this ruler to 2.5 inches now. And we just need 4. Line that up. Let me come back over here on this side. This one fits it almost perfectly now. Look at that. So it's nice to have a couple different sizes in these rulers. Sometimes you may not want the big one. You may want the smaller one, vice versa. I love this little small one. It's really easy to use. I use it quite a bit when I'm piecing. Okay. And let's turn it this way, and we'll get our 4 squares. 1, extra piece, 3, perfect. There we go. That's all our pieces, I believe. That's it. It's a really simple quilt block to make. Yeah. So now we're just going to be piecing them. So what I like to do is I'm going to make all my 4 patches first. So we're going to go over to the sewing machine. We'll put together all of the 4 patches first. And then once those are done, we'll come and put the rows together. So let's get started on that. We've got all these little guys. And we're just going to do a little bit of chain piecing and get them put together. Chain piecing with the Chains quilt block. All right, let's get started. Okay, so I'm taking my little blocks here and getting them ready for chain piecing. And I'm just putting a dab of stick glue on them to hold them together for the piecing. That's a little Kathy Clausen trick there to help your piecing come out a little bit better. So I'm just kind of getting those ready so they're ready to go when I can just do them all at one time. I'm not putting a lot on, just enough to kind of hold it in place, the 2 fabrics together, because they are small. So I think this definitely helps when you have smaller pieces of fabric. They can kind of shift around and stuff. So take just a few minutes here and prep them like that. And then we'll Get these all pieced together, and we'll go press them, and then we'll make our 4 patches. So, got a few more. Get a couple more. And I'm not using any fancy glue stick. This was just an Amazon basic. It dries clear. You're not going to see it, but it holds really good too. I don't think I've really had any issues of it like gumming up my needle or anything, if you're worried about that. So that's good too. Okay. Last piece. So those are all ready to go. And I might need a little runner fabric. Let me grab something just in case. Every time I don't have one, I end up needing one. So I'm just going to go to my trash bin here and find a little piece of fabric that I threw in. Here's one. Just in case. Sometimes my machine does really good and other times it likes to eat my stuff. So I am just going to, all right. And I already set my seam allowance at just 1/4 of an inch. Some people like to do a true scant 1/4 of an inch. I just do 1/4 of an inch. And I think as long as you're consistent, again, I think I've said this before in other classes, just being consistent through your whole project. So whatever you choose, if you're doing an actual scant 1/4 inch, or what the pattern calls for too, but if you're doing a scant 1/4 inch or just a 1/4 inch, just make sure you keep that same consistency through your entire project. Forgot what side I did there. I think it was this side. I guess it doesn't matter. And this one was a little wonky. I think I put it on a little wonky. There we go. All right, super easy. So I'm gonna go these apart. Oops, my hands go flying and knock stuff off. So let's see, get these clipped apart. Then I will go press those and then we'll come back and put together the 4 patches. Should go pretty quickly as well. This is gonna be a real fast block that comes together. And last one. All right, so I'm gonna go press these and then I will be right back. All right, these little guys all ready. So we are just putting them together and taking a moment to really line up those seams there. And I press to the dark side so that these will line up real nicely together. So you can see how that fits right in there. And I just kind of like to pinch it or hold it in place and then get started. You can always make an adjustment if you need be. And then once I hit this seam and I know that that's good, sometimes I'll come down here and adjust this bottom if it needs to be adjusted too. We're just gonna keep going with these guys. They're so small, these tiny little pieces here. There we go. And again, if you need to adjust, you can adjust it as you go too. Well, that one seemed a little off, so let me pull it up here and see what's going on. I was pulling it a little too much. Way to go. They look pretty good. And then we've got our 2.5-inch squares. So let's lay out our rows. I like to just look at the visual on the front and keep that handy to make sure I have these going the right way. So you definitely want these going the right way when you're piecing, not like this. This is how our chain is going to go. So we want to make sure we have these going in the right direction. So I just keep that over here off to the side so I can look at it as I need it. But basically the first row is going to look like this. Use this one, that looks a little better fit. That's going to be our first row. So I'm going to go ahead and get that put together. So I'll put together the rows first, then we'll go press them, and then we'll come back and do the rest. So clip that off. And I don't really need to press this yet to put the other one on, so I'm just going to open that up and get this one lined up and on here. And that will be row 1. And we can finger press them if we need to, just while we're waiting to go piece them, so we can just give a little finger press on those. And then also what we want to make sure of is that since we're putting the rows together, and we're going to want to nest them really nice together. So if this is my top row, I'll hold my, and make sure my seams are going the same way. So we'll go press this, but I have my seams pressed that way. So my next row, I'll press the seams this way and vice versa. And that'll help us make sure that they get nested really good when we go put the rows together. So that's row number 1. The next row is going to be like this. Let's try, might need to trim a couple of those up. Let's try this one. So we're going to have a solid 2.5-inch, our little 4-patch, and another solid just like that. So let's get this guy going. Just gonna get this other one on this other side here. It's gonna be our second row. There's our second row, and now our last row is going to be put together just like our first row. So, but you can see here, even though I pressed them, you can see how that's all good there, but you can see how I'm off a little bit on the side. I'm going to go ahead and just trim that off so I have a nice straight edge there to piece to this one. That's just going to make my life a little bit easier. So I like to do that. Of course, you don't want to take too much and get it too small or anything, but sometimes when you have that, have you ever seen that happen before? I just like to trim that off so all that's even before I go to piece that together. So I'm going to go do that real quick. Easy peasy. It's just like one piece of fabric. Just had a little bit extra when cutting or something. I don't know. Nothing's ever quite perfect, no matter how much you try. So I don't usually spend a lot of time on it or sweat it too much. I just trim it up a little bit so it matches. And again, that's going to make this piece a lot nicer. There we go. And let's see. This guy's going to go. Make sure I've got them going the right way again. So I want it like this. I'm going to go ahead do that as well. Not happy with this guy either. Let me trim up that guy too. These last two are just a little wonky for some reason. So just taking off that little extra that kind of made it hard to line up. We'll Make this so much easier in the long run. Okay, so that's our 3 rows. Let's make sure they all look good. You can see our chain right there. So let's get these pressed and then we'll put these 3 rows together. All right, here is our 3 pieces we're going to piece together. That's what they look like. You guys can see that. Pull this back just a little bit here. And there we go. So let's finish putting it together. So I'm going to start at the bottom, I guess. And hopefully did everything right. These little guys should nestle together pretty good. Take a little bit of time to make sure they're lined up. Again, you can still keep using a little dab of glue or some basting glue if you want. Help hold these together. I like to kind of just finger hold it until I get to that first one, and then I'll come down and just kind of adjust this last one as I go. Right, so looks pretty good. Just wanted to check my points come out pretty good. I think they look all right. And we'll do our top piece. Is that how it goes? Yep. Oh, what did I do wrong? It goes this way. I double check that for a second. I almost put it on backwards. Even with a very simple, only 3 rows, and I can mess it up. Just my brain thinks backwards, I think. Okay. A little time to put those in here, line those up. Take a few moments to line this one up. And then we'll go press it, square it up a little bit, and then we're going to be on to our ruler work already. All right, I'm going to go press this and bring it back, and we'll get started on our ruler work. So I'm going to press it. I'm just going to square it up a little bit, and then I'm going to get my backing and batting on here for getting prepped for ruler work. So if you want to go ahead and get those steps completed, get your machine set up for ruler work if that's what you're going to do, or embroidery if you're going to do embroidery instead. Either one. I'll be doing the ruler work. So when you come back, I'll have this set up for ruler work. And again, we're going to put our backing and batting on here and get started with that. Okay, so I am all set up for ruler work. Let me just get my machine in the right setting here. Okay, so I've got the heart and the rope and echo template. So the first thing we're going to do is the rope, which we're going to go just across the middle here. Kind of see that. Let's see. Kind of see it showing here. So I think we can get 6 ropes in this middle section here. And part of them will be cut off when we go to put the binding and stuff on, but you will be able to go edge to edge with that. Or if you didn't want that look and you just wanted to make sure things were centered and you didn't cut off any of your rope, you could just do 5 and kind of center it across. But I think we're just going to do 6. And that just gives us time to kind of practice doing the rope, which is a really fun template to use. So you can see on the rope template here, you guys might have already used this, but it's got a little etching right here, horizontal etching right here for center, and you've got these little etchings at the top and bottom as well. So I'm going to follow, so I want this rope to be centered right in the middle of this row of blocks here in the center of, so I'm going to use the center row of my block, and I want the ropes to go across that. So I'm going to line that up right there. And so what I want to do is make sure I have a line that's going all the way across that I can follow. So I'm just going to use my ruler, line that up on that 4 patch there, and just make sure I do a line on these 2 blocks here. And that way I have something to line up there with. There we go. As I move across. So, and again, if you wanted to lay this out, you can use your little stitching line discs and kind of lay it out to see how many you want to cross. Again, I'm just going to line it up the edge and just keep going and do as many as I can. I'm going to start at the A, take a couple stitches. I'm going to just follow the template all the way around. Be sure to stop in those corners, a nice corner. Come up, go all the way to A. Then I'm going to come back to A. On this other side right there. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to move my template over, and you'll be able to see that the shadow effect on the template, you'll be able to see that little etched line should line up with my previous stitched line. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to B and then back to B1. And then again, you're using these horizontal lines to line up with the line that we drew there to keep the rope centered as we go across. So I'm going to line this up here. Make sure I'm lined up vertically. Now I'm going to take a few steps up, so it's a little off. And then I'm going to come now back over and go all the way down. So we should line up this stitched line with that one, should touch, and then we're going to go back to B1 and stop. And we're going to move it over. I'm going to turn my speed down a little bit. Apparently my foot's getting a little happy with me. All right, again, we have those previous stitch lines to help us line up. The horizontal line to keep it straight that way, and then we're going to go all the way back to A and then to A1 and keep working our way across. Really easy to use. It's a great border design, or as you can see, you can use it for the middle of your block as well. I'm going to come all the way over, hit that other stitch line, then go back to A1. Stop, move our template again. And that should line up right there. You should have that horizontal line there. And you can always use your spacing gauge too to make sure you're lined up here. Obviously you want your needle to touch that stitch line right there. So if you feel like you need extra little double check there, you can always use your stitching line disc. And again, if you find yourself a little off, I just kind of walk myself up to, again, that foot touching the top of that template, and then start again. We go over to B, and then back to B1. Stop with your needle down and move the template. There we go. Make sure you're lined up and back to A. To A, and I'm going to go back to A1. Stop with needle down. Okay, where were we? Sorry about that. I had somebody pull up and had to stop recording and run out. So we are on our last one. Making sure that that's lined up there. Isn't that nice? With templates, you can just stop if you stop with your needle down. And because all of our etching lines and stuff, it's super easy to just pick right back up where you left off. So just going to line this back up. Again, adjust a little bit where I need to. Wake up my machine here. I'm going to come all the way around. And over. And back to B1 and stop. And there we go. That should have been, we were able to get 6 on there. Yeah, all 6. So even when we go ahead and wrap this up, it should barely just cover that. So that is the border in the middle. So next we are going to do the hearts. So for the hearts, the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and draw a line here so that I can keep my hearts all lined up. We're going to follow a line. And it's easy enough when you have the 4 patch here, but I'm going to make sure I have it on this other one there and make sure it's just enough so I keep everything straight. Okay, so one of the ways that you can do the hearts, and it makes this little fun design here with the little circles in the middle, is we're just going to follow along how you do it here. So you're going to build one of the hearts, and then you're going to work your way down, build the other side, and work your way back. So let's try that. And let me get some staple tape back on my template here. To do the heart, I've got my horizontal line drawn around. Stop with your needle down. Gonna flip the template around. Take time to get everything lined up. We're gonna make our first heart. Perfect. We've got our first heart. You guys can see it. Now I'm going to flip it around and we're going to make part of the next heart. But we're not doing the whole thing. So if you see right here, we're just going to do this part of it and then we're going to flip the template and do that part of it so that we can get to the other edge, do a complete heart. Then we're going to finish with the 2 circles in the middle. So we're just going to be doing a half a heart now. So again, we're going to line up those lines, etched lines on the template to make sure we stay in the center of this row. About right there. I was like, something's not lining up. I need to do it this way. So I was like, it didn't look good. So now we're flipping the template because we're going to come up and do it this way. So I'm going to line that up. You see that's in the center right there. I have that line that's in the center up at the top. And we're going to do our half a heart. Stop with needle down. Now I'm going to flip it and we're going to do our half a heart the other way. And we'll finish those hearts when we come back. So I've got it lined up. That etched line, you can kind of see it right here. I'm going to make sure it's lined up right in the center of that 4 patch. I'm lined up with this one right here on that line I drew. So hopefully everything stays lined up. And I'm going to do the other half of this heart. Start there. Then I'm going to flip it. And we're going to go this way. So now we're doing that last heart, which is going to be at this other end. So I'm taking my time to make sure it's all lined up. This is a nice way, again, of doing it if you don't want to break threads or anything like that. So now I'm going to come down. I've got that lined up right there. I'm going to complete this other heart at this end. Now I'm going to finish those 2 hearts that I didn't finish before. So we're going to flip the template. Let's see, this way. And as I come back up, it should complete that circle, and then we'll flip it and complete that circle and end right there. Or we could do it the other way and Let's see. Would it be this way? I got myself confused now. Oh, I feel like this. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Take a little moment again to make sure all of those etched lines are where I want them. There's that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and come back this way and complete that heart. Making sure that's lined up down there, lined up at the top. And that's going to give me those 2 circles. And then I come back here, and that's where I started. Let's take a look. So there we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. Heart, create the 2 circles in the heart. I like it. So let's do the other side. It wasn't too hard. Take a little bit of practice when you're flipping and turning it around. Took me a second there. Make sure I got my lines on here. And we're going to do it the same way. So we are going to do our half a heart first to get started. And we're starting down here. I'm using these 2 etched lines again to help me know where I want to start. My needle in there. I'm going to come up. I think my bobbin is getting low. Sometimes when my bobbin gets low, my stitches will skip a little bit. I think that's what's going on here. I'm going to flip this around. You don't know if you guys can see it in the camera, but some of my stitches were a little, like it'll skip and won't quite grab it, so it'll make one kind of longer. Okay, so I got myself lined up. Do my next one. Stop with the needle down. We're going to build our next heart. Is it this way? Yeah. Make sure that's lined up right there. Again, we're just doing a half a heart right now in the center there. I'm going to flip this around and upside down. I'm going to do the other half of our heart. Make sure everything's lined up. There, then we're going to flip this around. I'm going to do our complete heart here at the end. Flip this around. So easy to use. I know Donnell did a class recently using this, making hearts. You know, our entire heart set comes in a set of 6 different sizes. And she showed some amazing things you can do with the heart templates. So many different cool designs. Definitely check out some of her classes. Okay, make that. I think, yeah, that's lined up here. Am I doing this right? No, now I need to make. Good thing I double checked. I'm making my circle now. Okay. So I've got that lined up there, that lined up on the bottom. So I'm going to follow it up and make the complete of that circle, and that will set me up for my last one. There we go. And then we'll flip. I got myself really confused there. Okay. So back to where I needed to be. I've got my points lined up and finishing this circle back to where we started. Oof. And there we go. I had to do a little backtracking there because I went the wrong way. But that's why we practice. There we go. Not too shabby. Yeah, so I had it flipped the wrong way, and I came this way and just had redone the same side when I actually needed to go this way and finish off. So easy fix though. I just did some backtracking and fixed it and carried on. Not a big deal, but good to know when you're flipping around, just paying attention, especially when you're doing part of it. But it does a really neat design, and it's super easy to rotate the template and use it to make these really cool designs. So let's get this pressed. We'll get rid of my lines on there and get it the binding prepped, and let's sew on the binding. Okay, so again, we're just using our backing as our binding. So for the mini blocks, I cut about 3/4 of an inch of the backing is left over here, and that's what I use to fold over. And then I like this little, this is precision piecing, and it's like a fabric glue. Works really good for holding it in place. So I just use that to kind of tack it down before we go to actually stitch it in place. So let me get my other foot on. And sometimes it's fun. We don't do it very often, but you know, depending on what kind of a look you want, you could just get some matching thread and just go right, you know, along the line there, just barely catching it. Or you can use a good time to play around with your decorative threads on your machine. So we could do that. Let's see. Let me go in here and see what kind of fun little decorative thread stitch we could do. How about that one? We'll do a little heart border all the way around. All right. So let's start right here. Do I want to start on that? I think I might want to start on the edge. So I'm going to just put it right. There, I wanted to see where the needle was coming down at. Okay, let's see what it looks like. I figure since I'm having to do this anyways, I might as well play around with my decorative threads. Nice way to kind of bump up your border design a little bit, or your binding design. Make it stand out if you want. We'll see what it looks like. Sometimes we get so stuck in just like one method that we tend to not use all these great functions on these machines. And they're getting so fancy these days. I feel like I still not even used half of what my machine can actually do. Of course, I don't know how to use everything on it, but I'm working on it. So I'm going to try to end this at the corner where I can do, see how, we'll actually do, perfect. I think I got it. They really slow down at the corners. I think that looks pretty cute though. What do you guys think? A little heart on the binding. So if your machine has some cool decorative threads, give it a try. When you get your little mini quilt done, finish it off with a nice little decorative stitch on the binding. The corners are kind of hard, but not too bad. I tried to do it to where I got a heart in the corner there. But there we go. All completed. Our little mini quilt block, their chains block. Back side, not too shabby. Got some of those extra threads. Oh, that's just what the designs look like anyways. Oh, easy. I liked it. That was fun. I really like the rope template. I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit more. And the heart template. I think both of those were a lot of fun, easy to use, and great practice for making this little chains quilt block. So anyways, I'd love to see your guys's. Post it again on Westerly by me. Hope you're enjoying our Elevate Club box and learning all these different quilt blocks and different ways that you can come up with designs to ruler work quilt them or embroidery quilt them. I love the inspiration I get to see from everybody too on the different ideas that you do or the ways that you change it up. It's really inspiring and a lot of fun. So anyways, we'll see you guys soon at the next class.